the two wings of the party are just at war with each other.
Yeah, it's not normal, and frankly, it's not even particularly interesting.
CNN's Jake Tapper is just bored with the ongoing Republican fight over the speakership role in the House of Representatives. And it's good to know that I'm in good company here, because I agree. I am so incredibly bored with this ridiculous and embarrassing story. Now, the House of Representatives rejected GOP Congressman Jim Jordan's bid for Speaker for the second time today. Second time, and that's despite insane pressure that members of the Republican Congress received in the lead up to the vote, the first vote. But it backfired, the pressure backfired. We're gonna get to that in just a moment, but here are the latest details about the second vote that Jim Jordan failed. Jordan won 199 votes, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat of New York, won 212 votes. 4 Republicans who had voted for Jordan on the first ballot rose to oppose him, but 2 Republicans who had voted against Jordan on the first ballot changed their votes and supported him. But it doesn't really matter because he didn't get enough votes and is not going to be Speaker, at least for now. Now, Jordan lost the second vote even after his allies engaged in a pretty intense pressure campaign to rally support for his speakership. For example, the wife of Representative Don Bacon, a Republican from Nebraska, reportedly received anonymous text messages and emails, by the way, from some anonymous person basically warning her that if her husband does not vote in favor of Jim Jordan, there will be a price to pay. Can you just imagine that, being a wife of a sitting United States congressman and getting these like threatening text messages and emails? Because that is literally what happened to the wife of Representative Don Bacon. I'm gonna give you some examples. Talk to your husband, tell him to step up and be a leader and help the Republican Party get a speaker. There's too much going on in the world for all this going on in the Republican Party. You guys take 5 steps forward and then turn around, take 20 steps backwards. No wonder our party always ends up getting screwed over. Punctuation, not a strong suit for this anonymous threatener. But there were more messages, including what I'm about to read to you. This is more of an exchange with Don Bacon's wife. So the anonymous person writes in and says, "Why is your husband causing chaos by not supporting Jim Jordan? I thought he was a team player." She responds, "Who is this? Oh, now you have nothing to say." And the anonymous person says, "Your husband will not hold any political office ever again. What a disappointment, or what a disappoint and failure he is." I guess Borat is the one sending these messages. She responds, "He has more courage than you. You won't put your name to your statements. Go get him, go get him." All right, now these pressure tactics, which were implemented prior to the first vote for Jim Jordan, clearly backfired. So one of the Jordan-friendly commentators on the right, Benny Johnson, spent the day of the speaker's race singling out Jordan's possible opponents in a move that is likely to further rankle already wary Republicans. Fox News host Sean Hannity's staff posted a list of the 20 Republicans who didn't vote for Jordan, along with their office phone numbers. "He's lost support because of this," said another House Republican who was granted anonymity to discuss internal conversations, pointing to a barrage of complaints from GOP lawmakers about Jordan allies' tactics. Constant smears, it's just dishonesty at its core. Let's name some specific names, because there were some Republican congressmen who were willing to speak out, including Representative Carlos Jimenez, who voted against Jordan on Tuesday despite outreach on Sunday, vowed after the first ballot on Tuesday that he wasn't switching his position, especially now in light of these pressure tactics. He supposedly said, "Stand down," and they haven't stood down. "Leaders are followed." Okay, Jimenez said, lamenting that some friends of mine are actually believing conservative claims that he's prepared to vote for a Democratic speaker. Now, Jimenez is not the only Republican lawmaker who's been dealing with this pressure and is not taking kindly to it. Representative Mario Diaz-Balart, a Florida Republican, says, the one thing that will never work with me, if you try to pressure me, if you try to threaten me, then I shut off. And guess what? Republican Byron Donalds agreed that the bullying was a bad idea and did in fact backfire.
I've talked to a couple of members where they felt that that's just not what they needed. I don't think that's what we should be doing right now. And listen, for all of the voters in our country, I think it's important for members to hear your voice, and I totally respect that. But I think that there are members up here who they want to be able to make this decision on leadership and then move forward. I think some of the pressure campaigns have backfired. They have not worked.
They have not worked. Remember, the pressure campaigns happened prior to the first vote, and they frustrated some of these Republican lawmakers so much that they decided to pull support even after supporting him in the first vote. So with that said, what is likely going to happen now? Now, Jordan's second defeat was the party's more mainstream wing of the Republican Party, like basically flexing its muscles and breaking away from the far right Freedom Caucus types within the Republican Party. They're showing their defiance, and look, they're doing it for a number of different reasons. We've talked about this before, but what's really stood out to me about their refusal to support Jordan is that they are running in districts that voted in favor of Joe Biden. And so they do see the more far right wing of the Republican Party as a liability. They do see their potential support for Jim Jordan as a political liability. Many of the holdouts to Jordan's candidacy represented districts that President Biden won in 2020 who have tried to establish more moderate credentials. Others are veteran members of the powerful Appropriations Committee who are deeply distrustful of Jordan's approach to spending and the types of cuts he has endorsed. And we can't forget that Donald Trump endorsed Jim Jordan for the role, specifically because of the fact that he is a Donald Trump lackey. He is a Donald Trump lapdog. Jordan helped Trump try to overturn the 2020 election and has used his power in Congress to defend the former president. He has a long track record of opposing compromise that prompted a previous Republican speaker to brand him a legislative terrorist. There are also some serious allegations against Jim Jordan, which we've talked about on this show multiple times. And he's facing those allegations having to do with his time as an assistant coach at Ohio State University. Now, Ohio State University Dr. Richard Strauss has been accused of sexually abusing members of the wrestling team during Jordan's time there. Will Knight was a former Ohio State University wrestler who accused Representative Jordan of ignoring sexual abuse while working as a coach at the college. And guess what? Knight spoke to the press, CNN specifically, and tore into Jordan's House speakership bid and even mocked the suggestion that Jim Jordan is a fighter. So let's take a look at what that interview looked like.
When people always call Jim Jordan a fighter, and I always wonder who he's fighting for, because he had a real opportunity to fight for us and the people that he coached and the people that he recruited at the Ohio State. And all he's done is just turned his back on us. So I don't know what the fighter thing is. I know he used to be a fighter. I know he used to be a good wrestler, but he's not a good fighter for anyone else that I know of. I guess if you want to fool people, and if that's what they do up on the Hill, he's, I guess that's what he's good at. It's, like I said, it's just disappointing because he still has an opportunity to do right by us. He has an opportunity to help us out, to help us remedy this thing with Ohio State, and he chooses not to do it with hundreds of athletes that he was associated with that as a coach, you're just supposed to help protect and mentor into manhood.
Pretty damning, doesn't look good for Jim Jordan, and I do not begrudge Republican lawmakers who would feel uncomfortable voting for him to be Speaker of the House, an incredibly powerful position. So again, what now? I mean, how is the House of Representatives supposed to, conduct business, do what they are tasked to do by voters in their districts if they do not have a speaker? Well, Republicans were expected to turn later to the question of whether to empower Representative Patrick McHenry of North Carolina, who's currently serving as the interim speaker, to essentially carry out the chamber's work until this deadlock is broken, if it could be broken. Now, that could be happening through January 3rd. We'll see. Jordan told reporters today that he supported holding a vote on whether Republicans wanted to do this, wanted to essentially have McHenry carry out official House business through January 3rd. He told reporters, call the question, let's find out. Basically, let's hold a vote. So that's where we stand right now. But I gotta be honest, I think that this is a pretty good example of how the personal interests and the power struggle among these members of Congress seems to be more important than serving the American people, representing the best interests of their constituents. Who cares about that? We're engaging in our little, power struggle catfight. That's more important to us at the moment. That's the Republican Party for you. And they wonder why Congress has an incredibly low approval rating. Maybe it's because they just can't do their jobs. Never serving the American people, refusing to engage in bipartisanship that makes sense. Just unbelievable, absolute nonsense. It's boring, but it's also pathetic and embarrassing.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.